See, the other side is people feel like, hey, we're indoctrinating children into a certain way of thinking. Like, how much were you indoctrinated?
I would say
we've gone too far. We've now gone from teaching students about gender and sexuality and so on to actually indoctrinating students about it. And you've all said...
People get the idea that, like, schools are indoctrinating your children and then they give their kids iPhones. And I'm like, your kids are learning what gay means because you gave them access to the entire world on the internet.
Yeah.
What is the current goal for, like, the gay community, and what's keeping that from becoming a reality? And if there is something keeping that from happening, how long do you think it's going to take for the end goal to be achieved?
Whoa. What's the current goal for the gay... What is the goal for the gay community anyway? People have this idea at universities, this is like a lot of radical queer activism. How often do you all encounter that here at Penn State?
I've definitely seen activism efforts. I get a lot of advertisements, posters about protests happening. I think it does happen, although I don't think, like... I don't know, people have this idea that you come to college and, like, you were attacked by liberal beliefs. I don't think that's really true. But
you don't see... I don't see it, but I don't know if you guys see it.
You're presented with diversity of beliefs, and that could, take you outside of whatever you were before. But I have seen activism efforts here at Penn State.
But you also... Right, there are, but not in the... How often do you get it in the classroom?
Not really, ever.
How often do you encounter like queer activism stuff?
Kind of to that point, like, it's the same thing as, conservative activism. They're going to be the loudest people that you hear the most of. So you think like, oh, there's, the LGBTQ group is like having a protest or something like that. And you're going to see that. But you also see like other movements having protests too. It's like what you see. And I think I know plenty of like people who identify in different groups who are, not politically involved, who like really just don't give a shit. Like,
I was a few weeks ago, I was walking across campus and I heard all this noise. I'm like, where's all this noise coming from? And there was a big protest going on. And so I turned the corner and there were 12 people with signs and stuff. And then there's a photographer there taking a photo. And then it becomes the ex-protest at Penn State. It's 12 people. We got 40,000 students here, So, see, the other side is people feel like, hey, we're indoctrinating children into a certain way of thinking. Like, how much were you indoctrinated?
I would say definitely not. I mean, I went to very liberal schools, I would say, and it was not something that was really talked about. Like, there was never like a specific lesson on like, if you're gay, this is how you're going to act, or like, this is what gay people believe, and like,
gay rights,
and you have to follow this or anything. It was
gay people should have rights.
Yeah. It was just like, obviously we talked about like the Stonewall movement and stuff like that in history class, and like major events, but it was never forced upon me.
Michael, how about you? How much did you study? How much did you learn about gay rights and queer issues?
Not a whole ton. Like, I think that like there were never like, here's the gay propaganda, as some people imagined it. It was more like, hey, we're gonna tack on a tiny bit about queer history at the end of this American history course, and also diversity is okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, Lyra, how about you?
Yeah, I think the only like references to it were historical or maybe in literature sometimes, but like, no one taught me like what gay meant. I mean, my school didn't even do like sex ed or anything, or relationship classes. So
you didn't have a gay student organization or anything?
We didn't have one, actually. We did not have GSA or anything. We had like a diversity club, but that was very vague. But no.
Were they all white people?
I don't know. I went like one time. I forget what it was like. But I don't know. I think people get the idea that like schools are indoctrinating your children and then they give their kids iPhones. And I'm like, your kids are learning what gay means because you gave them access to the entire world on the internet.
And they're curious.
They're not learning it in school. You gave them the internet.
I would say at my school, at least, they didn't really touch on the topic, but it was mainly more so everybody, like, be nice to everybody, be kind to everybody. Because there were a lot of, my school must have been as different, but there were a lot of folks who came out as gay, lesbian, whatever, at my high school, elementary school, well, not elementary, but high school mainly. And it was more so just kind of taught to be nice to everybody. We weren't taught, like, what it means, like everything of that nature, but more so just like be accepting, be nice.
Be accepting.
Yeah, or be kind, even if you don't agree.
Okay, so for example, if your father comes out to you when you're 12 years old, be nice to your dad. He's still your dad. Yeah. What do you think, I'm going to go back to Jack at this end. What do you think people who say that all of you here have been indoctrinated, how do they define indoctrinated? We've gone too far. We've now gone from teaching students about gender and sexuality and so on to actually indoctrinating students about it. And you've all said that you haven't been indoctrinated by it, but what do you think the people who are against this or think that, what do you think they think has been happening to you all, your generation?
I mean, people love to talk about like the fact that you can get like a gender studies major here or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they see as like, it's a fake major or something like that. And I mean, if somebody wants to study that, all the power to them, honestly. I think that like, if you want to go spend that money on a degree, I wouldn't do it, but like you can.
Yeah.
And then they see like, certain, activist groups like having different events, like inviting drag queens to come perform at like in the hub or something like that. Yeah. And they see that as like, oh, this is what I'm paying my son's tuition for, my daughter's tuition for. Like I'm sending all this money just so they can have like sex toy bingo or something like that. Like what a waste of money.
Right. Okay. Let's go to trans issues, for example, because this is a serious one, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think they see? Jamie, did I get that right? What do you think they see?
I mean, I think people use indoctrination to describe their kids learning about things that they don't believe in, which, like I said before, like, I don't think they're learning that stuff in school. Maybe they're learning it from their peers. Like, if they have peers who come out as queer or trans, they might witness that, but that's not the fault of the school. But, like, I learned pretty much everything I learned about queerness on the internet, and that's something you just can't prevent kids from doing these days. I mean, you can put all the parental controls you want, you can not get your kid a phone, but like, I don't think it's schools that are bringing these things into kids' lives.
Well, okay, that's not your experience. Hang on. Your experience of your school is that, that wasn't happening for you.
Maybe other schools are. I don't know.
Well, for sure, some schools are. I mean, that's not a question.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that learning about being gay makes you gay. Like, maybe it opens you up to the idea that, like, it's a possibility, but I don't think it fundamentally changes you.
Well, hang on, though. Maybe it doesn't make you gay, but you said earlier, you come off to college and it's a place where you just get exposed to lots of different things and you try new things. So I've had a lot of students over the years who have been like, I did X, Y, or Z with my roommate just because why not? Let's just experiment and do it. So in that sense, it does. It can,
Yeah, but that's adults making their own choices. I wouldn't call that indoctrination. Like, people are allowed to experiment with their identity. Like, they are making their own choices.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Did you were going to add something?
I was going to say something kind of similar to what you said. I mean, I saw this in high school where it was, it was a welcoming community. Like, it didn't really matter if you were gay or straight. And so there was like, people would come out in high school. It's kind of the time you do that, I feel like. And parents would be like, oh, is the school making my kids gay? And I think it's obviously not. It's more the fact that like it's giving them an area where they feel safe enough to express themselves in like how they feel.
Okay, but I'm going to throw a but in here. Okay, how many people though at your age, when you're young, we're experimenting with things and identities and so on, right? And yeah, we experiment with an identity. So it's like I'm in 11th grade or 10th grade and I come out as gay, but because my friends, maybe that doesn't mean I'm gay, but it means that I see this we're talking about it. People are open about it. I'm like, hey, man, like this is like, you're 12 years old and your dad comes out as gay, and then your cousin comes out as gay, and then you're like, oh, I'm gay. I don't know. Because you're working, it's part of your building your identity. It doesn't mean you are gay. It doesn't mean when you're now sitting at Penn State, you're still gay. But at that point in time, you're like, okay, I'm experimenting with this stuff. And so one thing that people at Project 2025 or other groups are saying with Indoctrination is like, well, we're opening up this as options for people. And maybe they don't need to have so many options because kids can push other kids in certain directions.
Sounds really free. Sounds like we're really promoting individual freedom there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, so you're saying, yeah, but let kids have the option. Yeah.
What they don't learn at school or like don't have a platform to learn about at school, they're just going to go look at online. And so
yeah, they're going to do
if you're going to cut it off at school, it's just going to lead to like even worse information for younger kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, I got it.
I have a question for argument's sake. If you read the Bible, does that make you religious? I guess because kids growing up learning about gay media, gay culture, whatever the case may be, the expectation under religion is that if you are fed religion and you learn about it, you are therefore religious. So in their mind, learning about gay culture, learning about gay ways of life makes them gay or makes their child gay, making them afraid of it. I think that's very... It doesn't work that way because
hang on. Let's ask Jackson, the man with 2 crosses and a gay dad. Let's ask him.
I wouldn't say that learning about it makes you gay or anything of that nature, because I don't know. I feel like it's still, if somebody's going to be gay, they're going to be gay. And no matter what they're learning or not learning, they could be reading the Bible, or for me, like I've taken women's studies courses or LGBTQ courses that talk about that stuff. I'm not gay, and so it's like I'm learning about it, and like I'm not that way. So it's like, I do think that in some form it is good to learn about it, because if not, like if like for example, I have my father, so like that was a good step to that I just learned firsthand. But if I didn't know that and I was just only taught a certain side, because I also think people can be indoctrinated to also be homophobic and things of that nature. And so I think it would be a lot better to learn about what these people go through and things of that nature rather than to hate them and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, I got that. I hear that.
What is the current goal for like the gay community, and what's keeping that from becoming a reality? And if there is something keeping that from happening, how long do you think it's going to take for the end goal to be achieved?
Whoa, what's the current goal for the gay? What is the goal for the gay community anyway?
I mean, you could call it the gay agenda, which
That's a good question, by the way.
I mean, it's equality, equity, like it's just being respected, being treated like human beings, and also at the same time being just like, leave me alone, let me live my life. I want to connect with people, I want to have conversations with people, but also like people need to mind their business. Like my life is my life to live the way I want, as long as I'm not hurting anyone, as long as everyone's not hurting anyone. Like we can all just let each other live and be curious about each other.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And I think in terms of what's stopping it, the current political landscape, people are trying to roll back protections, marriage equality, things like that. Like people are trying to force queer people back into hiding, back into the don't ask, don't tell kind of phase.
Is that the common perception by people in the queer community that there is this movement? There is a movement. I don't know how strong. It's actually not that strong, honestly. It's not that strong, but it's there to kind of push back some of the gains, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's...
You think most people who are gay would say that? Like, yeah.
I mean, I've heard plenty of news about, people wanting the Supreme Court to reconsider marriage equality and things like that. And it's not necessarily happening, but people are trying to make it happen.
Hey, okay, I hear that.
So I would say that sexual orientation has a lot to do with human rights, because people are being denied their human rights because of their sexual orientation. Like they're being denied their access.
How are people denied their rights?
So they have especially for trans individuals, like access to gender affirming care is healthcare. It is literally life-saving care. And so by denying them that, you are denying them their ability to live, quite literally.
So what he just said, trans individuals being denied health care or the support people require to transition over, who are not going to just be non-binary, but actually transition over. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or what thoughts do you have?
That's a deep one. I mean, it's obviously an issue, but I think like the conservative side of the scale thinks it's like a bigger and more frequent thing that actually happens.
What do you think the concern is?
The concern is that there's like 12-year-olds who can go like walk into a clinic and get like estrogen to like change their gender.
Or, okay, that's one, but that's the second step.
Yeah.
The first step is that there are 12-year-olds who, at the age of 12, are saying, hey, wait, I think I need to change my gender. And then the idea becomes, Jackson, go back to when your dad told you he was gay. You were 12? Okay. So think of your thinking at the age of 12. So the idea is there are 12-year-olds who are thinking like, oh man, I'm experiencing this body dysmorphia, whatever it is. Like I'm not in the right body, and therefore,
Yeah, and like I think they think that that's an issue when I'm almost positive it's like such a small percentage of the population that actually A, decide that young, and B, like start to go through with care at that time. You know what I mean? Like there's so much talk about like, oh, you know, you have to be 18 to have a sex change or something like that. I think like it's so unnecessarily, it comes from like a place of fear. Like they're obviously afraid for the children at the same time, but like it's not something that's happening. It's more sensationalized than it is, you know.
So your assessment is it's not that common.
It's not that common.
What you've seen in your world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think where a lot of this emerges from is that suddenly the issues regarding the trans community were everywhere. At some point in time, everybody's talking about trans rights, trans. So everywhere you turned, there was some conversation about trans issues and trans rights. And so if you're just on the outside and you're watching this, it seems like the whole world has gone crazy, man, because everywhere I turn, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or it's like, oh my God, this is all we're talking about, when in fact it's a really small group. And so the perception is, and then everyone has to get on board, so you got to be like, can't be transphobic, you got to support anything, and then suddenly, because you don't want to be transphobic, you got to be supportive of trans rights, and then suddenly people have this idea that this is just gone crazy because it's too far. And so sociologically, that makes sense, that people are going to push back against that. Whether it did go too far or not, the perception was it did, and it's like,
I mean, it is so sensationalized because trans people are actually such a small percentage of the population, but they're in the news all the time because, you know, people are trying to give people a common enemy, I guess, and they're an easy target.
That's one. No, hang on, though.
People are under this impression that like children are getting surgeries, children are getting hormones. That's not happening.
Yeah.
I've had experience with that in my life. I've been to like a gender clinic, and actually in my experience with that, there were more restrictions placed on it since I started that process. Originally, they told me that surgeries were possible at 18, and then when I was going through the process of talking to them about that, they moved it back to 19.
Yeah. So people are being much more cautious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear that. The perception, though, if you believe it's real in its consequences. So that's part of the issue, you know.
Okay, I want to say that first I agree with Lyra and the lady over there, I forgot her name, but that you can't force... Layla, yes, very similar. That you can't force someone to be gay. And I think today, with so many people being connected online, you have that issue of people being confused. And I think the people who are against the education of LGBTQ would be on the positive side of it if they saw that teaching the students what a gay person is and what a straight person is You're giving them the opportunity to think critically and make a choice for themselves, because at the end of the day, you can't force someone to be gay. You can't force someone to be something.
To be straight.
Right. So you have to give them the opportunity so that when they see it online, if you're scared for your kid to be gay, you should teach them what it is so that when they see it online, then they won't become gay.
Yeah, this is a thing, right? Hey, I have a question for you. Wait, you're from Saudi, right?
Yes, I'm Saudi and I'm Muslim, yeah.
I have known lots of Saudis who are gay. And they're never out and gay. If you ask the government of Saudi Arabia,
there's been gay people for centuries. I think it's always existed, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what causes confusion, is when you don't teach someone, everyone wants to feel like they know themselves. And I think it's good. It's good that you teach them. And if you're scared for your kid, if you're scared for them to be gay, teach them what it is. Teach them what it is to be straight, and then let them. And that's part of our religion as well, that you can't force someone to be something. That is their choice, and they are held accountable for it.
Yeah, they'll be held accountable. They'll deal with it, which is what you must be thinking these days. As a Christian, it's like, well, if people are gay, like your dad, you're just going to support your dad. It's like, you can't, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I think you have to, I think education is good, because then you get into this bad era, the fear of the unknown. And when this happens, and people who aren't educated, like, they're just going to be afraid of, what is a gay person? Then that's when you get the inequalities. And going back to the question of how does sexual orientation, what does it have to do with human rights? I think being educated, knowing that being gay has nothing to do with what makes a human and things of that nature, then it really plays along to, because it could be a society where gay people can't access any health care. And unfortunately, my pops had cancer, and so I would hate if he couldn't get access to that and things of that nature.
Yeah. I'm seeing this issue, the trans issue, for example, from a sociological perspective, and then it's a non-issue, and then suddenly it's boom, it's just everywhere. And so when I'm thinking as an outsider, if I'm not studying it, right, I haven't, because I know what you said about, it's really tough to get medical support. It's not easy, man. Someone somewhere just gave it out to whoever.
Yeah, I had to have a note from a psychological professional as well, and most people can't get that.
No, it's hard. It's not easy, but it got easier for a hot minute. And there's always going to be somebody who's going to I'll write you that note. Here you go. And then that's the one that gets put out in the media.
It costs a lot of money, though.
Yeah, it does cost a lot of money. No, the whole thing. No, I've had quite a number of students who have transitioned over the years. So, but I'm just saying, as sociologically, people have the perception this just got crazy, and then so they feel like we got to roll this back, when in fact maybe it never really did. But
I actually went through the process of getting into the gender clinic and just learning about it, and I chose not to medically transition. I'm 19 now. I could have surgery if I wanted to, but I learned about it. That's why I was there. That's why I went, just to learn about my options, and I thought it wasn't right for me.
I'll bet that's the majority of people are definitely like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, who do that, who have done that.